Excuse me. Yay!
All right, we are going to talk about Missing 411. And Clownbaby, we are going to have to give Spanky a primer on exactly what Missing 411 is. So when I speak, and if I misspeak, please correct me. So Missing 411 is a series of books written by David Paulides. David Paulides. Am I saying the name? David Paulides, okay. And he documents people who go missing in national parks, for the most part. He's an ex-detective, and he's pretty thorough in his investigations. And what's unusual about these people disappearing in national parks is the manner in which they actually go missing, and then how sometimes their bodies are found. So, for instance, you're walking down a trail, and your kid is right behind you, like 2 feet behind you. You turn around, they're missing. Out of the blue, they're missing.
Oh, yeah.
And they send out search and rescue teams. A lot of times, immediately a storm will roll in, really preventing the search and rescue teams from doing their jobs properly. And then maybe months later or a year later, items from articles of clothing are found neatly folded up on a tree stump, or the remains of that individual are found in areas that were previously searched. So some really bizarre circumstances in which these people go missing.
They'll find a child alive, like a young, 2 or 3 year old, and they'll be, 8 to 10 miles away up on top of a low mountain ridge, something like a child that they just couldn't have made it to. They won't have their shoes oftentimes. Usually, I don't think I've read a case where they remember exactly what happened to them. Of the children that do survive,
there's a lot of instances of people that when they are found, their shoes are off for whatever reason, that or they're in the middle of a very cold environment and they ditch all their clothing and they're found virtually naked. And some people say, "Oh, this is not any sort of paranormal thing. These are people who have been attacked by a bear or some kind of wild creature." But the more you look at it, it doesn't really make too much sense. And there's actually a documentary that came out recently, and I watched that. I watched the entire Missing 411 documentary, and they try to position it as like a murder mystery. Where
I don't know why they did that documentary the way they did it. They shot it like it was supposed to be for Netflix.
Yeah, they really tried to make it a crime kind of drama, like How to Make a Murder. Yeah. And it didn't work because it didn't go into the paranormal side, but it did have interviews with the survivor man, Les Stroud.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And that guy is probably the most compelling person because he knows the wilderness. He's been out there, and he really insinuates that there could be a creature, like a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, that could be behind some of these missing people, which is very interesting to see and hear this guy who's pretty reputable suggesting something like that.
Talking about Harry and the Hendersons.
Yes, essentially Harry and the Hendersons of Sasquatch abducting people and doing God knows what with them.
Well, if they found a child, if a Bigfoot existed, if found a child, it would kind of take it under its wing and in a kind of guardianship. And it would, maybe I don't want to eat this kid. It's kind of like me. I'm going to carry it away and raise it.
Yeah, like a child raised by wolves, almost like scenario. I mean,
or like the Howie Mandel movie, Walk Like a Man.
Walk Like a Man, great movie. Howie Mandel, 1984.
You know the year?
I don't know.
Guessing the year.
Maybe I guess. I'm just saying it's probably.
It probably is 1984.
A lot of people looked that up. But
I would guess 87.
But there are a few instances where a child is abducted, and they do remember certain things. But for the most part, the child is so young, they only can maybe speak in general terms, like the wolf man walked me through the woods. Oh, wow. Or in one instance, this 11-year-old is able to remember being taken into a cave by his grandmother, and there were sparks shooting out of his grandmother's head, and his grandmother asked him to shit on a piece of plastic. Weird stuff.
Okay.
And it was hazy. He couldn't really recall everything. Sorry, clear my throat. Why am I so phlegmy, Spanky?
Well, it's phlegm season.
Yeah. So there are weird stories like that where the survivors can't really remember everything. And what they do remember doesn't really make any sense to people like you or I. So it wasn't like a serial killer. It's not like a ring of kidnappers. So on this show, we've been going in and theorizing about what this possibly could be. The author of the books, David Paulides, doesn't theorize at all.
What about region? Like, where does this happen? All over?
Mostly national parks, but...
Well, that's what the cases he studies in his first two or three books. But he does other ones. He looks at disappearances in cities. We've talked about it at length with that one guy who disappeared at the bar in Columbus. And then there's another guy that just disappeared in Pittsburgh this past winter. We covered in depth.
Yeah, it's not really like he started off in national parks, but realized that there are patterns of disappearances also within cities, and it's fairly widespread. And what's even more bizarre is that when he started investigating the disappearances at national parks, that the actual parks themselves don't keep track of these disappearances, and they charge a lot of money if you want like an Excel spreadsheet of who has gone missing in the park. And
Why?
And in one instance, I think Yosemite wanted to charge David Paulides $1.3 million for a list of people that have gone missing. So there's no
There's
database.
another instance where he just wanted all the materials of one missing person, and they wanted like $34,000.
Why do you think they would do that?
So there's a couple theories of why they wouldn't keep track of it. It looks bad on the national parks. Maybe it's too much work. But you would imagine that they would want to have a database of people who have gone missing to, one, continue the investigation if it's a cold case, help the family, and see if there's a pattern of criminal activity going on. But apparently they don't give a shit. Or if there is a database, they're not telling us.
Yeah, why not the transparency of these forest rangers?
You would imagine that the forest rangers would be very concerned at this, and this is some kind of bureaucratic thing that's going on. The search and rescue teams they're pretty upfront about what they find and don't find. They don't want to entertain these weirder possibilities, but they acknowledge that, whoa, we know we searched this area a week ago, and now the body has shown up in the exact area that we searched. There's something weird here.
Yeah.
Something's not adding up.
Let's look at a logic. What if it's like a certain people like living there that are just that they don't know about. They don't know they're actually living in this.
Possibly like some sort of undocumented native inhabitants.
I'm not talking about the descent. I'm talking about, maybe there's some fucking hill guy with a beard and no one knows he's there.
Sure, some
in a cave.
Some hilljacks, cave dwellers, troglodytes, subhumans, dwarves. Well, that's kind of where I'm going with this, Spanky, is that what if there is some sort of hill creature or hill person that is responsible for this? It's got to be a lot of them. So this is kind of my missing 411 abductions mixed with hollow earth and cave creatures kind of theory. So pay attention, Clownbaby, and let me know if I misspeak. So throughout folklore, there have been reports of fairies and elves abducting people.
Hello.
Fairies and elves abducting people, taking young humans and sucking out their life force. That's in folklore. It happens. And there's also been folklore of goblins taking humans and using them for slave labor mining underground.
Are you talking about a Narnia situation?
Possibly a Narnia situation.
Or something that literally lives under the ground?
I think literally lives under the ground, but also possibly could dip in and out of our reality. So a Narnia is like a different universe, and you can get there through going through a portal.
Yeah. Basically.
I wouldn't say that's
wormhole.
Wormhole. I wouldn't say that's too dissimilar from some of the other theories going on here. That is a theory of missing 411. Maybe these people slipped into a portal. They slipped into Narnia. Because sometimes
we kind of brought that up when we talked about Skinwalker Ranch and those people going. I read that one guy's story of how he kind of slipped into a different plane of existence.
Yeah.
For several days.
But there's always been folklore of underground dwellers in underground cities. Gilgamesh was a king who was around in 2600 BC. He was believed to be half divine, and Gilgamesh.
You mean like the person from the John Waters films?
Well, was there a guy named Gilgamesh in John Waters films?
No, he's half divine.
Yeah, I mean, half divine. Okay. Gilgamesh sent a subhuman that he befriended to the underworld to search for immortality. So Gilgamesh was obsessed with immortality. And this underworld had a bunch of different types of beings down there partying. It was filled with animated corpses, spirits, scorpion men, and artificial beings called the Galator or Gala. So artificial beings, you can take from that what you will, but I kind of would imagine some sort of like android, like Data from Star Trek.
I think if there was a logical way to explain all this folklore, it would be just a bunch of weirdos living in caves, and that they are, they look different than everyone else. They're going to look.
Hills have eyes.
If they have a few generations in a cave, they're going to grow up and they'll look like fucking anything that you want them to look like.
Sure.
You don't tell me how to behave. You're not my mother.
And if they're interbreeding with each other, then they're going to have strange traits.
Possibly.
There'll be elves and there'll be fucking dwarves
and goblens.
I mean,
Danny DeVito is effectively a goblin.
If Danny DeVito came out of a cave,
he's a dwarf.
I would think he's a fucking goblin.
He's one of the world's most renowned dwarf actors.
If that little guy from the original Twin Peaks seasons 1 and 2 came out to me and he starts talking backwards, I'm not gonna I'm gonna think it's from a different plane of existence.
Yeah, take me to a cave, do with me what you will.
I'm not going to say that.
Oh, you're not going to do that? Okay.
I'll just surrender to him.
Well, these in Gilgamesh and in the underworld, the great below, these Galator were the artificial beings, and they were used for missions to kidnap humans. So they were sent to the surface to get humans for whatever you can only think. So if you kidnap somebody, it's slave labor. You're talking about maybe sexual enslavement or physical labor or procreating. It's bizarre what's going on here with the Gilgamesh thing.
Well, some of these cases are killed and mutilated. Other ones are not. They're just kind of moved to their weird places.
Well, some correct me if I'm wrong, Clownbaby. Some people who go missing are never found.
Yeah,
and
often, yeah.
Often their bodies are never recovered. Sometimes when they're found, there might be in a very strange location and also positioned in a very strange way, like
almost an impossible to get to location, or it's oftentimes found in water.
Yeah, near a body of water is another big factor.
In water,
yes. And
so there might be ways through these bodies of water to go underneath the water into a cavern that leads down
into like some kind of underworld.
Yeah.
I honestly I hadn't considered that. I'm not trying to put it all together. I mean, I guess I'm trying to put together who might be doing it, but not where they come from or how they might be getting from point A to point B. That's it's tough to when you read about some of these things, some of these events, and then you hear talks on it, like how people are found dead and their clothes are off, their socks are on, but their socks aren't dirty. Like they weren't walking along the ground in their socks because they would be dirty. They're clean socks, so that means they were carried or levitated in some way.
Yeah,
it's the more you think of it, the more it's kind of like perplexes you, and so you're searching for weird solutions to this puzzle.
If there's a logical explanation, it would be that there's a kind of cult or weird sect that's independent of most of civilization that just does this.
Well, then it's had to have been here for a very long time, and it's almost a parallel civilization at this point. And the federal government and the park services know about it, and they're just letting it go.
The park people.
The park people are just letting it go. They got some kind of secret deal, and we're not going to tell the people, hey, if you come camp here, you might be abducted by a Danny DeVito-looking creature. And then who knows what happens in that cave. But they're not telling people. But in 1943, there was a magazine called Amazing Stories, and Richard S. Shaver told a story of deep underground cavernous civilizations with technologically advanced troglodytes, subhumans, basically grody-looking guys and gals.
They're so grody.
Grody, but they had a vast amount of technology, like thought rays or telepathy.
Thought rays.
This guy wrote it as thought rays. Like thinking rays. Hey,
thinking rays.
You got one of them thinking rays?
So you're thinking and there's rays that come out?
I guess so. But that's telepathy, and then holographic projection, and then mechanical humanoids, like other kind of like droids or data-like people. And this guy in 1943 described flying discs. And
that's before 19. Sorry.
So in 1943. That was 5 years before Kenneth Arnold basically went public with the first major revelation about 9 flying discs that were flying over Mount Rainier.
Yeah, and those were not discs. He described a arrowhead shaped kind of thing, like a fucking stealth bomber.
Yeah. So the disc, you're absolutely right. It became a disc, but it was kind of like exactly what you described. But Richard Shaver went on to say that these techno troglodytes can create solid holograms that can be turned on and off. That means they can be programmed and turned on, sent out to do a mission, come back and turned off, or disappear out of thin air. So that explains some stuff about what people may be seeing.
Is this technology that is it more like a technology that they invent with their minds and then they can mind over matter? Because there's no resources down there. There's no
I don't know what their mind. I don't know
what's the process of science over years and years to come up with this technology.
I don't know what this person's 1943 mind came up with. He was using the term thought ray,
thought ray.
Yeah, I got a think ray and a ray gun.
Oh yeah, I remember the think ray.
Yeah. But these creatures, they're split into 2 different groups, and one of the groups, they are able to produce like a mechanical creature that will kidnap surface humans, particularly women, for sexual pleasure, and they will also they'll take delight in the feasting on humans and torturing and just tormenting them, which kind of goes back to the Gilgamesh thing of the Galatar and the artificial droids, and even if you want to say like some weird creatures from folklore. So what is going on with Missing 411? Is this some kind of crazy parallel civilization? You can call it Hills Have Eyes, crazy hillbilly retards, or underground troglodyte technologically advanced people.
What if these are witches?
Okay.
Basically, that is some folklore that's been around for centuries. Why not that?
Why can't it be? I've never.
Witches are always dealing with children.
Yeah, absolutely.
They want children around them.
Hansel and Gretel. I honestly haven't considered witches before. Well, I mean, what do you think about witches and warlocks?
Or are witches an explanation of whatever this is?
It could be. It could be just a different name for the same thing.
Yeah.
Clownbaby.
Witches and warlocks? I don't know.
Come on.
That's
Is that an explanation? Basically, witches and warlocks is what people come up with to explain whatever's going on, where it might be something completely different.
I think witches and warlocks is.
Come on.
Anything we're.
Come on.
That was always people were accused of witchcraft and all of that. Usually, because they're being accused by the Inquisition or what they called Salem in Oregon.
Yeah,
for religious reasons. Usually why that was brought up, or people had a spell cast on them. Like in different native cultures in the world. This is more of a something. It seems more of like a creature's taking them, or some kind of entity, or other people. It doesn't seem like the witch just stealing you.
But okay, so if they are just creatures taking people, you would imagine they're taking people for a reason, and there's some kind of hierarchical structure that they're actually being sent out to do this, and the head of that organization is a master warlock, like level 20.
Yeah.
Could be.
So I don't think, if we're not thinking of witches and warlocks in the traditional sense. I think it's just they're a different name for the same kind of thing, where you could call it a genie or a djinn or a witch or a warlock, or you can call it anything, but it might be just different names for the same kind of weird phenomenon. I don't think a witch. I'll have to look into it. I'll have to look into witchcraft and missing people.
I know but the same name or many names for the same phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that happening because
that's
how legends are. They just have to explain it somehow.
I haven't even this doesn't even touch. This is like underground dwellers. I haven't even got a chance to go into any sort of alien abduction and underground military bases that are potentially doing genetic experiments on humans. And also, alien abductions possibly being military run instead of genuine, authentic ETs abducting people. I'll get into that next time. I'm heavily invested in this. I want to put out as many theories as I can. Probably some of them bullshit, but at least there's some kind of theory going on. And with the missing 411 stuff here, almost every theory is just as valid as the next. So I know, Clownbaby, you kind of dismissed the witches in warlocks, but that's just as valid as Bigfoot at this point.
If you want to know what I think, if there's a connection between all these things, I think it's a cult.
Okay.
And it's, a human being with a strange mindset will do many different strange things. Howard Hughes will walk in the street with tissue boxes on his feet. Mm-hmm. Human beings will do strange things, and they'll do them for mysterious reasons, if for its own sake.
So I don't dismiss that it could be humans behind this, but Clownbaby, what do you think about that? You've read probably the most on the missing 411. Do you think that humans are behind this?
In some of the cases, I would imagine yes.
Okay.
But it doesn't seem. It doesn't mean they're unrelated. That's the weird part of it. If there's a lot of similarities, it seems like they would be related to each other, because you can explain each thing. It's like, this is all just random. Each thing's just a random occurrence. But if there's like similarities going on, if there's something,
there are patterns.
If there's a pattern to follow,
there are definite patterns, but. I'll try to send you some of the more stranger ones and talks. You should take a listen to them, and I think you'll actually find them relatively interesting. And you might come back on the next podcast with a different thought on it. And because some of the accounts are just so strange, where someone will be in their house and they'll just get up and leave and walk, and they're never heard from again. It's bizarre things like that, like they were in some kind of trance and they were hypnotized to just leave their house for no reason. What compels somebody to do that? Is it like an instant dementia, or they just lost their mind and went crazy for 15 minutes and wound up in a very strange situation on top of a hill? Granted, there's a lot we don't know about the human mind, but those seem like it seems like you're under the control of some sort of otherworldly influence. And not necessarily like, oh, that guy is just crazy.
So there's never any sexual things going on? No one's been violated?
There was, one incident that I can recall is they did find a skeleton in a very difficult area of the woods to get to. And this person was missing, and they found his pants down around his ankles.
Okay.
The FBI was brought in at that point, and I don't know if we have a conclusion to that case or if it might be ongoing. It might be a cold case at this point, so I don't know if they're releasing any of their findings. But I don't think that David Paulides, the author of Missing 411, has said that there is a sexual angle to these missing people.
If there was a sexual angle, it might be more like clinical or...
it could be,
observant rather than someone trying to
bang people. Yeah, I don't know if it's in that. It could be like when it comes to like alien abductions. That's very clinical, and all the stories like, oh yeah, they wanted my DNA, they wanted sperm.
They like played with my penis to see if it...
They played with my winky dink, my pee-pee.
And of course the anal probe.
Sure. And they didn't even want that. I volunteered that one. Yeah. They refused.
An alien came into my bedroom at night and he smelled like my uncle.
Yes.
He probed me anally.
Yes. Take my life seat, please. I give my life seat to the aliens.
An alien looked just like my uncle.
They don't want it. That's that.
The alien is just like my uncle.
But I knew it was an alien because my uncle would never do that.
Right. The alien also drank all of my beer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the
alien asked me for like $50 the other day.
The alien came to my family reunion and it was really awkward.
The alien was super wasted.
Yeah, we didn't make eye contact, but I knew it was him. That is my Missing 411 segment.
Is there an official documentary about it?
Yeah, it's on Hulu. You have Hulu access?
It is on Hulu?
Yes.
Well, I got to watch it then.
Yeah, I will.
I recently saw Unacknowledged.
Dr. Stephen Greer. What did you think about that?
I was really into it until they pulled out his little alien that he has. And then I was like, what? I got very skeptical. No one likes that little alien.
No.
By the way. No one likes it. Even if it's completely real, they'll never convince anyone that it's fucking real.
I don't know
what I mean?
I totally agree with you. I think just stick to the documents, stick to the eyewitness testimony, and stick to the whistleblowers. You don't need to be showing these little aliens and...
Let's say it's 100% real. It'll never matter because no one will believe them ever until they find like 1,000 of them.
I do have this little clip from Unacknowledged that might be relevant to the Missing 411 discussion. I will play this. This is about alien false flags. There's 2 segments here, and this wind down the Missing 411 segment.
They could pull it off. They could definitely pull it off. Right now, they have the technology to mimic the form, fit, and function of extraterrestrial UFOs. They have the technology, absolutely. It's seamless, and you can never tell the difference. If they do have a false flag invasion, they're going to use one of these. This is the Hudson Valley Boomerang. This is 1982 to 1989. Over 25,000 eyewitnesses reported this craft. They can use these saucers, the cigars, the pyramids, the triangles as a united coalition, and that's how they're going to do it. We're talking about 150 to 172 feet across for the wingspan, which is the identical wingspan of the B-2 stealth bomber. So
they're talking about an alien false flag. These are human-made UFOs, and they're doing it to basically scare the public. And I think in the second clip, they're talking about the abductions.
They started doing all kinds of psychological warfare entrainment of the public by staging hoaxed events, such as cattle mutilations. Oh, it's a flying saucer who did that. It's a covert paramilitary program, human. So if you wanted to start indoctrinating people into a false threat from outer space that Werner von Braun warned us about, you would start staging events that look alien, but that are completely man-made, that are scary and scare the hell out of people.
UFO encounters are categorized into 4 groups. Close encounters of the 4th kind include people who claim to have been abducted by extraterrestrials. If you had a close encounter of the 4th kind and you are back, we're anxious to hear from you.
Spanky's uncle.
Inner stage left, you got these sort of anti-gravity devices with creatures that look like ETs that are actually man-made robotic systems. They're called programmed life forms. And you start doing select interfaces with the public.
We did do that, yes. OSI did that. There was a special group out of the 7602nd Air Intel Wing at Fort Belvoir. They came out and did that. They had these people that had maybe some sort of defects, anatomical defects that were brought in to fool people and think they're aliens.
Yeah.
I can't give you any specifics because the program is still classified, and they probably still doing it. I wouldn't doubt it. They were still doing it.
So there you go. Redneck, hills have eyes, defects. That's what they're talking about. Man-made robots that are defective or defective-looking people, and they're talking about staging alien abductions.
Well, they're talking about making puppets.
Yeah, but that are living, thinking, programmable.
And they're talking about making puppets to scare them and bringing in certain humans that look strange to do that.
Possibly.
Right?
Or are they actually really abducting people? Yeah. Are they really abducting people from national parks using these biological robots? They said, Dr. Stephen Greer said there are biologically programmed robots. The other guy said they're just deformed humans used to scare the shit out of people. In any event, it's creepy as fuck. What did you think about the entire documentary, Spanky?
I liked it. Of course, it threw me off when I saw the little alien.
Yeah.
But everything else is fine. Mm-hmm. And I actually I looked up the name of the other guy. Stanley Romanek.
Oh, is that the guy who got in trouble?
That's the guy who got in trouble.
All right.
And his documentary was pretty compelling until the very end when they said he was being prosecuted for child pornography.
That's what they do to you. Hey, Clownbaby, let's roll out of this. And what do you got for us?